Hey, Daniel from youre here. It's been quite a while since I've done a live video, but something was on my mind. A situation had happened in the recent past, or a number of situations that happened in the recent past, and this has just been burning my mind, and I know it can be helpful to studio owners if they were to take what I'm going to say here and put it into action. So in this short video, I want to tell you about some temptations that I experienced recently. And the temptation in this number of situations was to lie. And anyway, with this thought, I think it can share, what I'm sharing here, I think if you take it and apply it to your studio, it can help immensely, but you're gonna have to humor me for 2 minutes while I tell you about the situation. So listen to the story, and then I'm gonna show you, or you might see how it's connected to what could be really, really, really helpful for your studio. So in the past 4 weeks, I've had a couple of potential clients reach out to me at Grow Your Music Studio, not my personal studio, but at Grow Your Music Studio, and ask about doing work with me. And in each case, I got back to them and I told them, you know, what they needed to do and how I could help them and what it would take to work with me, costs, all that sort of thing. And in some of these cases, and again, this is several different people, the response I got back was something like, it was a variation on a theme. Okay, well, let me think about it. Or I'll see what I can do. Or I'm not sure I can afford that. All right. In each case, and again, if you'll stick with me, you're going to see how this applies to your own studio. But in each case, my social self, not my professional self, but my social self tempts me and says, you know, Daniel, reach out with some vaguely positive, encouraging message to this person. You know, something like, hey, that's cool. I know now might not be the best time. Or, hey, that's cool. I know how important it is to think things over before you make a big decision. Or, hey, that's cool. Just let me know when you have the money. Something like that. A social message. Something that, again, is vaguely positive, but is in fact a lie. They would have been lies. And the reason is because in every case, the person who'd reached out to me was not actually committed to making the change that they said they wanted to make. So it would have been a lie for me to come back with some social message like that, something that kind of lets them off the hook, when in reality, I know the truth of the situation, which is I've had people go from never meeting me before to getting on one 45-minute phone call with me and joining a premium program or having me build an ad campaign for them that costs several $1,000s in 45 minutes. So I know that it isn't true that everyone needs to think about it. I know from past experience, there have been people who've actually borrowed money to do marketing work with me, and then with the change in results that they have, the greater revenue that their studio experiences, they pay that money back in a fairly short period of time. So I know that if someone's committed to making the change they say they want to make, that they can make it happen. So it would be a lie for me. And this is where this comes in for your studio. This has just been burning in my mind, okay? I'm going to make the suggestion that if we were to be our true, authentic selves in our studio, that that this would do more for our business than any ad campaign, any mastermind group you're in, any program that you would join, any forum that you're a part of. That if we were just to be completely, totally, and 100% honest with our clients and ourselves, that is probably the missing ingredient in many studios that are struggling. And frankly, even studios that are really successful. I work with a fair number of studios that are above the 300 mark, the 400 mark, the 500 mark. And even there are places where people are pretending that they don't know things that they actually know. They're not being 100% and totally completely honest with themselves. So, as I said in the description of this video, there are 6 things that I wanted to bring up. In answering the question, how often do we lie to the families in our studio, by moderating ourselves and not letting people feel the full weight of who we are. And I'm just going to rush through this list. Well, not rush, but I'm going to breeze through this list fairly quickly. I respect your time. Plus, I have lessons starting very soon, so I can't spend all day talking like I do sometimes. So number one, we allow people consistently to pay us late, when very easily we could reach out to someone, and I know he's watching right now, we could reach out to someone like Eric Branner, who has the Fonz app, and set up auto payments in our studio, or some sort of automated invoicing scheme. But we won't do it because we're afraid people quit. And so we allow people to consistently pay us late, even though our policy says we don't tolerate that kind of behavior. We allow people to consistently pay us late and aren't our true authentic selves. We aren't letting people feel the full weight of who we are because we're afraid of the results. That's number one. By the way, not laying a guilt trip. I'm going to talk about the solution to this in just a minute, all right? So don't, start beating yourself over the back with chains or things of that nature. Second, allowing staff or assistants or teachers to consistently break policies. I think of one studio that I worked with last year where the studio owner required the staff or the teachers to give an accounting for their hours of the previous month. And what they would do is they would reconcile the hours for each student with the invoicing so that they made sure they weren't overcharging or undercharging a family. And this studio owner kept saying to me over the course of the time that we were working, I just can't get them to do this. And we actually came up with a solution to solve that problem, a very elegant solution. Once we put it in place, she never got that data late ever again. She usually had that data within 3 to 4 days of the end of the billing period. And she was able to reconcile her invoices, and it took a huge load of stress off, and it showed her staff that she meant business. So again, we can lie to studio families, we can lie to ourselves, we can lie to our staff and say, I'm saying one thing, but I'm actually, by my actions, doing another one. So that's second. Third, saying that you require a certain amount of practice, saying that there is a practice minimum that anyone in your studio has to meet, but then letting it slide month after month, okay? So in other words, actually saying students in the studio have to practice this much. And if you don't, you can't be a student, but then letting that slide, okay? Now, I know a lot of studios that, I want to be careful how I'm stating this because I don't want to be too strong here. I think there are studios that are even afraid to go that far and make a requirement like that. And again, not being totally true and authentic. And what they do instead, and I was guilty of this once myself, so I don't mind saying this. Instead of doing something like that, they just come to a Facebook forum and complain that their students don't practice enough. When in reality, if you are committed to having a studio full of fantastic practicers, you should fire every student that isn't like that. Okay? So you can't say you're committed to having a studio that has fantastic practicers in it, but then actually not demand that. That's, again, a way that we're lying to our studio families and lying to ourselves. Okay? 2 more very quickly. This is a big one, and I've been guilty of this in the past. Not being 100% honest about the progress that students are making. Knowing that if we told mom and dad actually our true thoughts of little Johnny's progress or little Sally's progress, that parents would unenroll that child almost immediately. So instead, coming up with vague platitudes or things like that to moderate the actual truth. That's 5. I could probably spend all day talking about that one because I know I've been guilty of that one. 6th and finally, charging less than you're actually worth is a form of inauthenticity. And I get emails every single month from studio owners saying, hey, how do I raise rates? And of course, I point them towards a blog post I wrote a couple years ago about how to raise rates in a really smart way so that they don't have a studio mutiny on their hands. But even charging less than what you think you're worth is a form of inauthenticity. It's a form of lying to ourselves and lying to our studio families in that we're not communicating the true value of what they're getting because we're afraid of what might happen. Okay, so again, like I said, and we're very close to being done here, but I had to get this off my chest. Understand I'm not laying a guilt trip on you, okay? What I'm saying is that by not being 100% authentic, you've actually handicapped your own power. You're allowing yourself to teach and run a business on easy mode. And what I'm saying is the best thing for us would be to run that business on hard mode, okay? Now, let's be honest. If we did this all at once, if we made 6 changes like I just said there, or maybe there's a different way in your mind that you're thinking, I'm not being totally 100% authentic. or I'm not being as powerful as I'd like to be. If we made all these changes at once, yeah, we probably would get a good number of people quitting our studio. So what I'm not saying is go out tomorrow and start chewing students out or yelling at parents for paying you late. There's really a simple way to make big changes like this. And I did it over time, but I think if I could go back in the past and think of it in a much more systematic way, like I am presenting it in this video, I think I would do it this way. One, I would write down exactly what it is I wanted to create in the studio. What exactly is it that I'm trying to, what is the experience? What is the experience I want in my career? What is it that I want to demand of my students? What is it that I want in terms of my policies? I'd get very, very clear on that. Second, I would review that plan each and every day. It's going to take courage to make a change like this. And then thirdly, and finally, I would have a 3 to 6 month rollout plan. So let's say, for instance, that you need to be a little bit more authentic with parents about how their kids are actually doing. Maybe it is that just for a brief period of time, you make it very, very clear that you're doing some evaluation within the studio and you're going to be sending some really raw and honest feedback to people. That could be a way to moderate, to give people a warning that the blow is about to come, right? Let people know in advance that you're raising rates. Let your staff know in advance that there are going to be some changes and some new agreements that you want to make with them. Some new expectations that are going to be set. And what I will say is that if you start doing this, the challenge that it's going to put on you is going to grow your business muscles. It's going to grow your professional muscles. You're going to show up as a professional, not as a social person who gets run over by people, by your staff or by parents or by students. You're going to show up as a professional. And yes, it will be challenging for a bit, but if you will look back in a year, and I've seen this with many students I've worked with, but you will look back in a year and you will say, I cannot believe that at one point in time, I allowed people to pay me late. That's just wild. I can't believe that, for a period of time, I said that I was committed to having practicing students, but I allowed students not to do that. And now I've put these things into place that, have increased practice, that have communicated expectations in a more clear way to parents and to families. You'll look back at this and you'll realize now that you're showing up in such a way that you're being 100% authentic and you're not lying to yourself or the families in your studio anymore. I don't know if I have much more to say than that. I would love to hear any questions, comments, criticisms. I realize that at heart there is a little bit of an offensive message here because it's basically saying that a change needs to be made, and typically when a change needs to be made, it's because something can be done better. And I see it in my own studio, the painful process of going from being inauthentic and lying to my studio families to where things are now. So take this in the spirit in which it's given, which is not necessarily one of criticism of anyone, but of realizing that being who we are, allowing people to feel the weight of who we are, is probably the best business strategy that we have. And what I will say, and the final thing is that in anticipation of making big changes like this, or allowing people to feel the weight of who you are, something I always did was made sure that my marketing was absolutely on point. Because demanding more of people often doesn't go over too well with people who are already in relationship with us, in a business relationship with us. But we will often find that people that are new to our studio will just accept policies or rates or expectations in a way that people who have been working with us for a while would not. In other words, there have been times that I've raised rates in the past and I've heard some criticism from people who are already in the studio, but I've said those rates to brand new people and everyone accepted them without batting an eye. So there is a sense that when you make changes like this, it can be tough for people who are already in a business relationship with us to accept that. So in anticipation of something like that, I would just recommend making sure your marketing is on point, whatever that happens to be. If you need to get aggressive with ads, do it. If you need to get aggressive on social, do it. If you need to start calling everyone who's ever reached out to your studio, but you never had a chance to connect with them, and pulling students from people who've contacted you in the past, there's many, many ways that you can do this. If you need to get serious about getting on Google My Business, if you need to run Facebook ads, if you need to learn how to run Facebook ads, do it. It will be well worth it, and you will create the career that you want. You'll be paid what you are worth, and you will look back and have something to be really proud of. Nobody, if someone were on their deathbed and wrote their memoir and it was called My Great Life of Comfort, no one would read that. It's always the challenges that people went through that inspire us. It's always the tough times, whether they were self-imposed or they came on us from external events. Those are the things that inspire us. Those are the things that challenge us and make us grow. And that's why I would encourage you. That's how I'll sign off today, by saying challenge yourself to grow for the rest of this year and throughout 2020 and the coming decade. Anyway, thanks so much for watching. I appreciate your time. I appreciate your attention. Leave any comments below. I'm more than happy to answer any questions. Maybe even I've often made videos based on questions that people have asked in follow-up. So leave that below. I love interacting with you. All right. Have a great day. Bye.